Yo, what's going on, guys? It is time for another reaction video, and this time I'll be reacting to 20 real places on Earth that seem scientifically impossible. Let's jump straight into it.
The world is an infinitely curious place. Just when you think you've wrapped your head around it, you'll discover something shocking. There are some places on our humble little Earth that will blow your tiny human mind. These are 20 real places on Earth that seem scientifically impossible. Number 20. Pohnani Beach Sand Strip. Now, allow me to get just a little bit biblical with you, because one of the most popular Bible stories is that of Moses as he leads his people out of Egypt. Then, with Pharaoh and his armies hot on his heels, he, through the power of God, splits the Red Sea, exposing the land and allowing the people through before wiping out Pharaoh's forces. Now, why do I mention this? Well, because in one place it actually happened in a much more natural way. The residents of Pohnani in Kerala's Malappuram were in for a pleasant surprise after the water from recent floods receded. A new island-like structure had surfaced along their beach. The narrow sand strip, which is well over half a kilometer long, literally split the sea into two. Does it sound familiar? You know, perhaps from the story I just told you? Now, naturally, this place became a wonder of the area, and of course, a place that people wanted to walk on from end to end, because this kind of thing doesn't just pop up out of nowhere on a normal basis. Or at least it's not really supposed to. The other thing I need to mention here is that when the floodwaters came, this strip of land wasn't actually there. It wasn't like what sometimes happens in heavy flood areas where a spot of land rises and falls with the waters. This was just never there before. But it was there, and it happened in 2018. So what exactly did happen? Well, the biggest theory is that when the massive floods came, it brought a lot of sand with it, and then deposited it on the beach, so when the waters left, the sand and land remained. Believe me when I say weirder things have happened due to floods. Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button, and click the notification bell right now, or this centipede will crawl on your face when you're sleeping.
I wonder if that spot, so they said that was in 2018, I wonder if it still exists or if it's settled back to the way it was before and most of it has washed away. If you've ever been there or you know anything about it, comment below, let me know.
Now it's time for the sweet topic. Did you know that there can be sinkholes on top of mountains? Well, there are in these table-topped mountains that sit near Venezuela's border with Brazil. Not many mountains have sinkholes in them, but this one does. 4 of them, in fact, and they're massive. The things make this place one of the strangest ones out there. These are entirely natural and were first spotted in 1961 by a pilot named Harry Gibson. Despite this, a proper expedition to explore them was not even possible until 1974, and all these years later, we still don't truly understand what these holes are.
It took them 13 years to be able to discover a way to go check it out. I'm sure nowadays it's much easier. Just technology-wise, we have so much more stuff available to us. I think I've seen a couple of these before. I don't know if I've seen this one specifically, but let's see what else they have to say about this.
Or why they exist. As always, comment down below using the hashtag #SweetTopic and let us know your opinion in relation to what we just showed you on the screen. Number 19. The Boiling River.
That was quick. I thought they were going to actually go more in depth on it, but I guess not.
Next one's going to get you a little hot under the collar, pun intended. Once upon a time, there was an explorer by the name of Andre Rousseau, and what did he do? Well, he heard a legend about a river that was quite literally boiling, and thus went to seek it out. Not only did he seek it out, he found it in South America, and it's absolutely something that shouldn't exist, however it does. It's called the Chene Tempishka, and has been known to the native people of Peru Meru who live in the forest for quite a while. Now, if you're wondering why it's referred to as the boiling river, that would be because the temperature of the water is a scorching 200 degrees Fahrenheit. That's
Wow.
pretty hot. Even the mud that's made from this water is hot, and you'd get third-degree burns if you decided to touch it. So I don't really recommend doing that. And even now, there's no logical reason as to why the river is this way. But trust me, people have speculated as to why it could be like this. Some think that the river is somehow attached to a geothermal vent, which exudes a lot of heat and thus makes it boil to such a degree. There's also a thought that the boiling water comes from somewhere else and is pulled into the river. Good ideas, but neither have been definitely proven. So thus, the mystery of this impossible place continues on. Not that the locals really care for the reason behind the hot water, they just like having it. They use it for boiling food and doing laundry and other things, and they don't even think about it. They just accept it, which is a wise action indeed.
I wonder, obviously, animals and fish and things like that wouldn't be able to survive in it. So I wonder how it affects the surrounding wildlife that would usually rely on water like that to drink and live, like deer and things like that. And I don't know what kind of animals are down there, but yeah, I wonder how it affects that if there's not as much wildlife around there as there typically would be in a wooded and jungle type atmosphere.
Number 18. The Petrifying Well. Yes, I'm still doing some water stories, but trust me when I say that like the last one, this place of water has one heck of a twist involved. If you look at history and mythology, you'll come across quite a few tales about entities being turned into stone, mainly by a certain woman with snakes for hair, but I digress. You'd think that these were just scary stories that you tell to freak people out, right? Well, in North Yorkshire, there's a place that honestly does this for real. It's known as the Petrifying Wall, and it's been turning things to stone for hundreds of years, having been an attraction since 1630 in England. Now, if you want to go there, great, but you'll have to leave me out of it. Also, a fun fact is that this well was next to a cliff face, one that appeared to have had a face of a skeletal human on it. So, when you add that visual with the power of the well to turn things into stone, you get a place that many would say is, well, evil, for lack of a better word. But is this really a place where you'll get turned to stone if you touch the water? Yes, but also no. There are a few steps involved. After an investigation, it would be found that the water was high in mineral content, so by leaving various objects in the well, which many have done over the years, the water will slowly turn them into stone. This process has been likened to how stalactites are made. And that's the trick here, because you can touch the water and not be turned to stone, but if you give it enough time, then you might have a more rock-hard skin than you would like. Number 7.
I wonder exactly how long does it take? Is it like weeks, months, years, decades? That would be interesting to know. If anybody knows that, let me know.
18. Lake Karachi. Now, why would you think that I'm done talking about bodies of water? I'm on a roll here, and not unlike the last one, this is a place that you'd want to look at from a distance. But unlike the last one, this is a place that I definitely recommend you don't touch, ever. Well, why? Because Lake Karachi is in Russia and is known as the world's most radioactive lake. Period. Don't believe that statement? Well, in less than an hour, you could receive a lethal dose of radiation should you go swimming. That's not a lot of time when you really think about it. Also, it means that just by being near the lake, you're in danger of radiation poisoning. And that's not fun. So how...
There was a clip a second ago, they just showed us something swimming in there, and I'm wondering how that can survive in that. I guess it could evolve, but still, that's kind of strange.
In the world could it happen? Well, sadly, it was during a time when nuclear waste wasn't exactly disposed of in the most efficient or scrupulous of manners. Yes, you guessed it, they dumped it right into the lake. Clearly because no one was using it that day, right? That level of radioactive pollution did a lot of damage, and that includes actually helping the lake to dry up. Oh yes, that's right. There's no water in this lake anymore. But if you think that this means problem solved, well, not so fast. Because remember, a lake isn't just water, it's the land that holds the water. So the radioactive material is actually seeped into the soil, and when the lake dried up, the dust was full of radioactive stuff. Do you know what happens to dust when such material gets caught by the wind? Well, that's right, it gets blown all over the place and then infects people in nearby towns. Good job, Russia! Number 16. Gruner Sea. No, I did not misspeak that last title. It is really called Sea with 2 E's. This place is in Austria. They spell a lot of things differently. Just sue me if you don't like it. The translation for Gruner Sea is the Green Lake.
That place looks beautiful, and on that first shot, the opening shot, you could literally see straight through the water.
Thus continuing the tour of all things aquatic. However, this is yet another body of water that has a very interesting twist to it that honestly brings a lot of tourists to the table in certain seasons. What's the twist, you may ask? Well, it has to do with the water levels. Specifically, this lake has a very interesting habit of getting a lot of water at certain points in its year, like when the water rises a whole lot. To break this down, when the lake is at its natural level, if you will, in the off-season, the depth of it is about 7 feet. That's a pretty nice depth and a good swimming spot. But when spring comes, oh boy, does the water rise. And that leads to the depth of the lake getting up to anywhere around 39 feet deep. That's right, this lake grows so much that the depth multiplies by over a factor of 5. Oh, and if you think I'm kidding, well, wouldn't that affect all the land around the lake, you say? You'd be right, because the water rises so much that nearby parks are literally drowned by the water until it recedes and makes the parks usable again.
I think it'd be fun to go do a picture on a bridge or one of those spots that they were showing when the water level is low, and then go do the exact same picture when the water level is high, if you're able to pull it off. I think that would be kind of fun side by side.
And if you're curious, the reason that this happens is that the nearby mountain range has a whole lot of snow stockpiled on it during the winter, and when that snow melts, it becomes water that fills up the lake and drowns out the surrounding area until the off-season, and then the cycle ends up repeating itself. Number 15. The Double Tree of Cazorzo. Yes, I'm done with water for now. Aren't you happy? In Italy, there is a tree that's very much impossible, and yet there it stands for all to see. Now granted, if you just passed by it and gave it nothing but a look, it may not seem all that out of place. But if you do get closer, you'd notice that the bark and branches aren't from the same species of tree. For this tree, it's both a cherry tree and a mulberry tree all in one. Somehow. Now, if your botany brain is signaling to you that this isn't right, it might be because there are a few ways that it could be explained, which includes through the phenomenon known as parasitic growth, where one entity grows on another. But this isn't that, and it has been proven. The double tree is a rather unique thing because of its size. These are 2 trees that are growing on top of each other and expanding their branches so that you can see for yourself. They're both clearly growing. Most of the time when something like this happens, it dies young or the trees are very small, which makes sense when you realize what it takes for certain things like trees to grow in the first place. However, this DoubleTree doesn't seem to care about those odds, so can we name the trees Han and Solo then? Regardless of the odds, it has happened, and it's something truly remarkable. Yes, there are a few theories as to how it may have occurred, which includes that two seeds just happened to grow right next to each other, and then the trees grew on each other, but it's not likely that anyone will know for a long time. But why? Well, would you cut this tree down to really find out? I didn't think so. Number 4.
While it's cool, it's definitely not something I would probably spend any time seeking out to go check that place out unless I just happened to be in that location and had the time to go do it. But it's still interesting. And I think, I grew up with woods behind me, and often, you would get two trees that would grow essentially side by side or start to intertwine and wind into each other. And it seems kind of like that's the obvious answer here, is that they just grew really closely to each other to where they started to kind of form into one, even though they still kept their separate parts and formed into two trees. But I'm not a botanist, so I couldn't say for sure.
14. The Beacon of Maracaibo. This one honestly gets me so excited to talk about because it's about something that's truly striking. A lightning strike, to be specific. If you head to Venezuela, you'll eventually come upon a spot known as the Beacon of Maracaibo. And if you were to go there, you'd more than likely see more lightning strikes within a set period of time. This place is almost literally a never-ending lightning storm, to the point where you can sometimes have up to 28 lightning strikes per minute. Not hour, per minute. And more times than not, you can have about 280 of them per hour. And furthermore, it doesn't happen on just any random or set day. It happens all throughout the year from 140 to 260 days, and you'll have an abundance of lightning coming down from the skies above. But why does this particular spot draw so much lightning? Well, nobody really has any idea. There are plenty of theories, however, as to why it may happen, but none.
That looks like something out of Stranger Things. All they need to do is add like the red, cloudy, smoky look to it, and it would fit right in. And I wonder how many times a year, or how often people are struck by lightning there. That's kind of crazy.
None of them actually line up with anything that we know about. For example, some think that there may be uranium in the ground where the beacon happens, and so the lightning is actually drawn to it. But if that's all there is, why isn't the lightning happening in other uranium-rich spots? Others think that it's a weather pattern that happens specifically in Venezuela, but why would one last so long and create so much lightning? The answer, well, it may be out there, but for most people, they look at the Beacon of Maracaibo and say, that's pretty cool. And I have to say that I agree with them. Number 13. Blue Pond in Hokkaido. Did you enjoy those non-water related entries? Well, good, because now we're going swimming again with more water tales. It's fascinating how many of these bodies of water have something to make them stand out, and in this case, the Blue Pond of Hokkaido is known for its unique color. Yes, it's called the Blue Pond, but come on. Would I really put it on this list if it was just blue? Water's blue to begin with. This blue has to be one that stands out. Well, because this pond in Japan is known for how bright of a blue it is.
I'm slightly colorblind, but I think some of the times these are blue and other times it looks green, unless I'm just seeing that wrong. What do you guys tell me? Are some of these clips blue and some of them green?
Just think about the ocean that you would typically see, or a lake, or something like that near your house. It's blue, but a very reflective blue. This blue here, it's more like electric Kool-Aid blue. Oh yeah! There are other elements to this as well, not the least of which is that this lake is a man-made one, and they definitely didn't decide to make it Kool-Aid blue when they constructed it. What's more, the color of the water apparently only looks bright blue when you see it on land. When you look at the water itself, it's not so much. So what is the secret of the lake then? Well, as it turns out, it has certain minerals in it like aluminum that apparently reflect light in such a way that it makes the lake look bright blue when you gaze upon it. And trust me when I say that this isn't the only lake that has that kind of property to it. Number 12. Ringing Rocks of Pennsylvania. Doesn't that sound like a band name to you? Anyone else getting that kind of vibe from the title? Oh well, let's just move on. There are plenty of people out there in the world right now that think that rocks are cool, but if you go to one of the ringing rock parks that you can find in spots like Pennsylvania, you're going to have your mind changed on just how cool they can be, in the most positive ways, of course. Because as the title would very much suggest, these are rocks that will ring if you hit them with a hammer. Now, to be clear, they aren't regular rocks, so if you do try and hit a standard rock with a hammer, you'll probably get a more typical crack sound before it shatters all around you, and then your fun will be over. But these rocks, well, they don't just...
That's pretty cool. And you could tell from that one clip that obviously those guys were probably making music out of it, because you could tell they were kind of all doing it simultaneously. I wonder what the audio from that clip would have sounded like.
Ring, they ring as if they were bells. So these parks are literally full of these kind of rocks, and people love to go up to them and see how mightily they may ring. But how does this happen, you say? Well, apparently these rocks were formed by volcanic fire, and when that happens to a rock, their literal makeup is different from those that were simply created from the earth around. As a result, when you hit that rock, the composition of material allows it to ring. See now, rocks do actually rock. Number 11. Kawa-Egan's Blue Lava. Let's stick with volcanoes for a moment because they are very impressive and also very important, not the least of which is that they're the reason that we have a lot of islands in the world and why places like Pompeii have been wiped out by eruptions. But while most volcanoes have the standard red or orange-yellow lava, depending on how you look at it, there is one such volcano known as Kawa-Egan that is very atypical, as its lava is blue. Now that I'd want to see, but from a distance, of course. Technically, I did lie to you there. You see, when it was first discovered and documented by a photographer, a lot of people immediately looked at his stunning pictures and said that it was blue lava. But it's not. Rather, the flames that are caused by the lava were burning blue, making it seem as though the lava itself was blue. But that still makes the question stand out. How can this happen? Specifically the gases. At Kawa-Egan, extremely high quantities of sulfuric gases emerge at high pressures and temperatures, sometimes exceeding 600 degrees Celsius along with the lava. Exposed to the oxygen that's present in the air and sparked by lava, the sulfur then burns readily and the flames become bright blue. To further prove this, if you look at the lava in the daytime, you may notice pretty quickly that it's about the same color as other volcanoes. However, at night, it burns bright blue. It's still cool, but just not as cool as pure blue lava, you know.
I think that was covered in one of the other videos I reacted to recently. This gave a little bit more detail as to how the process is taking place, but that's one of those places I just wouldn't want to put myself at risk of going there, because you never really know for sure what's going to happen with a volcano and if it's going to decide to erupt more than usual on any given day, and then you're kind of stuck. So I'll stick to watching that one on video.
Number 10. Devil's Kettle. There's a lot of jokes that I could put on that title, but this entry will take a little bit to explain, so I'll skip it for now. Besides, the devil still owes me a fiddle of gold. On Minnesota's North Shore, there's a dual waterfall of sorts known as the Devil's Kettle, and if you look at it, you'll see very clearly the two branches of the water. One side flows regularly, but then the other side hits a rock barrier and the water disappears. There's a hole in that rock where the water goes, but where it goes after that, no one really knows. And many children, no doubt, have thrown things into that hole, waiting for it to show back up, only for it to be lost forever. However, a reasonable, though technically unproven theory states that the water goes where all water goes in one way or another, back to the source. You see, there's an underground stream beneath the waterfall, and many suspect that the waterfall's second branch is merely winding its way back to that spot of water. This is backed up by the fact that the amount of water going into the waterfall is the same as the amount that's coming out of it later and on down the river. But for some, no doubt that mystery is going to endure for a while, and it's not hard to see why. Number 9. Lake Vostok. Now let's head to a body of water that you're likely...
Almost all of these are water, it seems. Out of the 20, I think, what are we on? 14, I think, and like almost all of them have been water except for 2 or 3.
Not expecting to exist, because this is a lake that exists in the most coldest of places around, Antarctica. Antarctica's a frozen tundra. How in the world is there a lake there? That's because it's not on the surface, it sits a few miles below it. To be clear, when I say a few miles, what I mean is 2.5 miles below the main surface of Antarctica. That's a lot of ice that separates the surface from the lake. But if you're thinking that it's impossible for a lake to be there, well, you'd be wrong. How this happens is that because of how deep it is, it's being heated up by the core of the Earth, and thus the ice that's above is getting melted, creating a lake as a result. People are actively trying to get a sample of this lake, which is not an easy thing to do, so they can research it. And obviously, if one lake that impossible is down there, then why wouldn't there be more? Number 8. The Zone of Silence. Now, a lot of jokes could be made about this one, including the fact that this was the place that your parents sent you to when you were punished and they didn't want to hear from you. But don't worry, I went there when I was a child, and look at where I am now. You'll find this supposedly impossible place in the Mapimi Biosphere Reserve in Durango, Mexico. And as you may have guessed, it's a spot where there's a lot of debate about what's actually going on. You see, there are a lot of myths about this place, which includes a potential failed missile test that landed in the desert area, causing a lot of problems for a lot of people. What's more, it's said that all sorts of communication signals get scrambled in this place, and that all sorts of odd things have gone down there. Now, it's not true, but myths persist and tourists will come, and trying to stop them might be the truly impossible thing. Number 7. The Bermuda Triangle. Now come on, you knew this place was going to show up on the list. It's the Bermuda Triangle after all. How could we not have put it on here? This is the legendary and infamous spot in the Atlantic Ocean that is connected by Florida, Puerto Rico, and Bermuda. Well, obviously, because it's in the name. And in this mythical and treacherous part of the ocean, over 50 ships and 20 airplanes have disappeared, all without a trace. Seriously. That is legitimate. What also may or may not be legitimate is the fact that it's where my pet guinea pig Twinkle comes from.
There's a movie that takes place on a ship, and it's something to do, I think it's supposed to be in the Bermuda Triangle or play on something like that, and everything keeps starting over again. And each time it starts over, the people on the ship are, I guess, kind of like regenerated, and they're there again. Because I can't remember the name of this movie, and it's gonna drive me nuts. But this is making me think of that movie. If you know what movie I'm referring to, comment below, because I would like to actually go back and watch that movie again now that I'm thinking about it, because it was super interesting concept for a movie.
And that would explain a whole lot about her. Because all these strange happenings, people have wondered what exactly goes on there, especially when you realize that this many ships, especially ones like Navy vessels, should not have vanished without a trace. However, they have. While these disappearances haven't continued in recent years, the legend still remains, and there are plenty who are weary about wading into these waters. Just in case the power of the triangle decides to come back to life and consume them.
I wonder what the depths are in that area too, because if that many aircrafts and watercrafts have just essentially disappeared, it's gotta be like insanely deep for them to go so far under the surface that they can't even get a trace of them.
Number 6. Parting the Red Sea. Now, I told you the story of Moses to kick off this video and how that technically happened with a new swelling of land, but there are some people who not only believe that the story of Moses was real, but that it wasn't exactly a miracle that caused it. Rather, they think that it was nature, and they claim that they have proof. First off, the claims that the story was translated wrong, as it didn't happen at the Red Sea, but rather the Sea of Reeds. Then there's a particular scientist who notes that it was the powerful winds of the area that literally pushed the water of this narrow delta in a way that's called a wind set down, and as a result, there's enough land for Moses and his followers to walk through. Now, whether you believe that or not, that's entirely up to you, but I will say that this scientist used a lot of science and real-world maps and figures, all to try to show how this could happen, and the belief part is up to you for now. Number 5. Mobile Cave. Now we head to Mobile Cave in Romania, a place that's sealed away from the rest of the world for over 5 million years, and when they finally got back in, nobody could exactly breathe. The oxygen in the atmosphere in this cave is 1/3 to half less than the base atmosphere of the planet, and while also having exponentially more carbon dioxide. It also has traces of sulfur, methane, and more, and that's pretty bad for life outside the cave. But inside of it, well, it turns out they're doing just fine. There are over 48 species of creatures living inside of this cave, including many that don't exist anywhere else in the world. That should be impossible, but life, well, it finds a way, and this kind of life learned to live in a very dangerous environment, so to that, I'd tip my hat to those species. Number 4. The Taos Hum. Taos, New Mexico is home to one of the biggest mysteries of the world, the infamous Taos Hum. But why is it a major mystery? Well, because there's a section of the population that can hear 100% of the hum, but others can't. Based on the various surveys and such that have been conducted about the hum, only about 2% of the people on Earth can hear it, and they are appropriately called hearers. But if you're not one of those 2%, well, you won't be hearing much. What's more, the people who do hear it describe it differently, and various powerful technologies can't even detect it for one reason or another. So is it real, or is it something that's a man-made perception? For now, no one can really say.
Interesting. I've never heard of that one before. I wonder how many different areas you can supposedly hear the hum from, if you have to be in an exact spot or if it's like a pretty big area that it covers.
3. The Sea of Stars. There's already plenty to see when you go to the Maldives, mainly because it's one of the biggest destination vacation spots in the world today. But at night, you'll be able to see the event known as the Sea of Stars, where the water below you glows with a brilliant blue hue. To put it simply, it's caused by bioluminescent phytoplankton, and the water here is full of this plankton. The movement of the waves causes it to glow, and that creates an incredible shimmering effect that will make it look like the sea is actually full of stars.
Definitely seen this one before. It amazes me every time I see it. I think it would be awesome to see in person, and then I think it would really be cool to try some sort of a really unique photo shoot concept there as well. I've got a lot of ideas in my head rolling around that I could certainly try there that I think would be really cool.
Now, this isn't the only place that it occurs, so thus, every spot that contains these glowing entities are impossible spots to ignore. Number 2. Lake.
If you know some of the other places that do that, tell me in the comments below, because I want to see what's potentially the easiest one for me to go visit at some point, or the most affordable one to go visit.
Remember that Kool-Aid lake that I showed you a little while back, and how I teased that it wasn't the only place to have a cool effect because of the contents of the water? Well, if you go to Lake Hillier in Australia, you'll see a more radical version of that via a pink lake. Yes, it is pink, and to be clear, other bodies of water have no such pink hue to them. Some scientists believe that the color is due to the presence of seaweed-rich in carotenoids belonging to the species of something I'm not about to attempt to pronounce. When lake waters reach high salinity, high temperatures and sunlight make these algae release a pigment that can color the lake. It makes sense when you consider the other colored lakes that are out there in the world. Number 1. Door to Hell. Now I'm going to get my gold fiddle. Does anyone want to come with me? I'm actually heading to Turkmenistan, and more specifically, the Darvaza crater that caused their equipment to fall inside. To try and right the ship, if you will, they decided to light the vein on fire and wait for the natural gas to burn out. That was in 1971, and even today it's still burning. That people really don't know when it's going to stop. Because if there's that much natural gas to keep things alight for that long, that's an impossible amount, and nobody will be able to calculate just how much is down there until it actually fizzles out. So, you may just want to pull up a chair as you watch this pit, because it may actually take a while. That's all from the land of mysterious places that have been found on the earth. Are you amazed by some of the spots that have been shown here today? And which of them do you feel is the most mysterious as a whole? Do you know of any other impossible places that should be on the list? Let me know all about it in the comments below. Also, be sure to check out the other cool stuff showing up on the screen, and I'll see you next time.
All right, I will put the link in the description below to the original video, so if you want to go check that out without my commentary. If you enjoyed that content, also maybe perhaps subscribe to their channel as well, since I did use their content to create this video. Tell me in the comments if anything on that list of those 20 locations was either something you never heard of, or perhaps maybe your favorite one. Curious to see what you guys thought about it. This was similar to some of the ones I've done so far, but there were definitely some new spots on the list for me. So yeah, I'm enjoying doing this series on my reaction videos. If you guys are new to my channel and you are enjoying this content, there will be a playlist at the end of this video with more videos like this, more reaction videos. Give me a thumbs up if you like this. Please leave me a comment. I've actually already said that like multiple times. I'm sorry, I've had a long day at work. And share this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Later.